Good morning, Hart Elementary. Hello and welcome to the news for April 30th, last day of April. All right, tomorrow is May 1st. Remember, we talked about Greg Abbott's opening plan, and there's going to be a lot of things opening back up on May 1st in smaller capacities. Remember, 25% capacity for things like restaurants and stores and libraries and museums, stuff like that. But lots of places will be open again with adjusted rules and regulations just to make sure that everybody stays safe. Okay, if you want further information on that, yesterday's video, I did go through everything and say, like, these are the things that are opening. This is how, going on and on like that. All right. Don't even think about it. I'm busy. All right. Today, I'm going to talk about tomorrow, Amazon, Whole Foods, Target, and Instacart employees are going to be going on strike. They're going to be striking for all of May 1st. So those companies, the employees are asking for better wages and hazard pay during the coronavirus, and, better health benefits. Please go away. Please go away. While they're working during the coronavirus pandemic. All right. So they will be striking on May 1st, which means they will not be working. The first known swimming dinosaur has been talked about. There was a National Geographic article about him, and he's been getting a lot of news. Okay, so it's the Spinosaurus or Spinosaurus. All right, so he was first discovered, this dinosaur was first discovered at the beginning of the 1900s, so I think like 1914, 1918, something like that. And when they first discovered it, they just thought he was kind of like he just walked on all two legs. He, used his tail to balance. He was on land. They didn't really know because they didn't have enough of the bones. So that's how they figure out about dinosaurs. They dig up their bones, and then based on the way the bones are built and shaped and put together, scientists can draw conclusions about how the animal used its body parts. Like, did it walk on four legs? Did it walk on two legs? What kind of protection or muscles, or what did it eat? Because we can look at its teeth and say, this was its diet. So we have all sorts of information we can get just from the skeleton. They didn't have enough bones, though, so they just kind of were like, it's just, quadruped. It's just whatever. Doesn't matter. And then they discovered some more bones and 2014 was the last we had known about it. By that point, we knew that it swam, but not like we thought it just walked into the shallows and like rummaged around the shallows, ate some fish. Didn't know that its tail was as long as we now obviously know. So in Morocco, there was another dig site where they found another example of a Spinosaurus. And at that, they found pretty much an entire intact tail. And now they can see that the tail was much wider and long. It kind of looks like a eel. The back half of the tail kind of looks like an eel, and that it's long but also tall. And it's very strong, and it's used to propel the dinosaur through the water. So it could actually go, into deeper waters and fish like that instead of just having to walk around the shallows. And it, we know that it mostly ate fish because of its jaws and its teeth. And we know that the way the claws work is better used to grabbing things in the water and less used to walking around on land. So we think it's probably, spent most of its time in the water, but it's really cool. I am going to link, they did an animation about it, so you can actually see how it would look going through the water, and it's actually really, really interesting. I thought it was cool, so I'm going to link to that. National Geographic has some animations of it. And you can actually learn more about the dig and about how our ideas of what it is has changed over the century. Okay? The NCAA has announced that they will support name, image, and likeness compensation for college athletes. So this has been kind of an ongoing thing within the college athletics world, where we're looking at, all of these kids that are playing basketball and football and, volleyball, all the other sports, their images are used to make money for the school, and they spend a lot of their time, working for the school. So do they deserve compensation for that? Should they get paid like they're at a job? What are we going to do with that? And they have decided that they are going to work on compensating them for using their images. So whenever you see, whenever they're making money on the March Madness, NBA playoffs, or the NCAA, the like football playoffs every year, the bowl games and all of that, they're using the images of those college athletes, and they are now going to start giving them money for that. Anytime they make money by using their image or using their name, they're going to start paying those athletes compensation for that. So that's a big win for the college athletes. And that's going to go into effect. They're going to start planning that in this fall, starting in August and October of 2020, and then it's going to start going into effect 2021. Okay, so by this time next year, our college athletes will be receiving compensation for things. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes the college sports game, because it's a big moneymaker, and it's interesting to see what new things we get, what other things get taken away now that they're starting to pay the athletes for using their images. All right. I thought this was fun. There was a little Twitter thing that Google has released the most searched recipes for each state. So a lot of people have turned to cooking and baking during this time, during quarantine, because they're, kept in their houses and they don't have, so might as well start cooking and baking and pick up a new skill. So Google has released the most searched recipe for each state. So you can go through and look and see, a lot of states looked up. Cinnamon buns was pretty popular. So were things like different kinds of breads or desserts like cookies. Hamburgers is what Texas searched the most, hamburger recipes, as did a couple of other states. So there are some, pretty good hamburger recipes out there, but apparently people in Texas want them. Just ignore the cat. Don't look at her. Okay. All right. Focus on me. So it's fun to see. I will be linking to that so you can go see what the other states liked. But Texas, yeah, we're hamburger people, apparently. All right, more stuff. The first concept trailer for the Disney Plus Star Wars series, Kenobi, has been released. And I don't know if you guys are into Star Wars, but Miss Davis is super into Star Wars, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite Star Wars character. So this was really big news to me. I was super excited. I can link to that so you guys can check it out. So Kenobi is going to occur in between the third movie and technically like Rogue One, I guess, but the first like original Star Wars movie, A New Hope. Okay. So it's going to occur between those two movies, in that gap where Luke is living on Tatooine, guarded by Obi-Wan Kenobi, who becomes Ben Kenobi, and we're gonna get to see what he was up to for those 21 years, which I'm super excited about, and I feel like that's gonna fill in a lot of gaps in the Star Wars universe that have been kind of filled in by the Rebels series, but not like in the Rogue One series, but not all the way. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. That will be coming out, I think, either later this year or early next year, depending on, how much they've had to delay filming because of coronavirus. But that is coming, and it will be on Disney Plus, and Miss Davis is super excited, so I will definitely keep you up to date on that one. All right. Stimulus payments. Okay, so a lot of people are having trouble with their stimulus payments. They haven't gotten them. They've been trying to sign up through the IRS website, and it's been saying, no, you don't have any payments, or you don't have any, you're entering an invalid amount. So apparently IRS has said that they have fixed a lot of glitches with their website, so it should be easier to go in and check on that. If you have not, the next round of payments that should be coming out is, Social Security recipients actually should be starting to get theirs today if direct deposit. Obviously, paper checks will be a little bit longer before you get it because they have to mail it, and they had to go back and re-sign them. But direct deposit should be coming in starting today, and over the next like couple days, more people will get them. And that is for Social Security recipients, and survivor and disability, non-filers. So people who weren't required to file a tax return and so filed the short non-filer IRS online forms to give direct deposit data on the IRS website. Those guys are non-filers, so non-filers are going to start getting a lot of theirs. Obviously, the people that did file, it was a little bit easier for the IRS to send theirs out because they didn't have to go through Social Security or disabilities or the VA. And they already had their information on file. So if you have not filed, all right, if you are SSI or a non-filer or a veteran, any of that, and you don't usually file a tax return, and you don't really have to, but you haven't also signed up for anything, you need to go to the IRS website and use the non-filer too on the IRS website if you have dependents. Okay, so if you don't have dependents, don't worry, you're still going to get your check. If you do have dependents, okay, and you want to get that extra $500 per dependent, you do need to go to the non-filer website by May 5th and fill out the form so as they know that they need to give you the extra money. If not, the $1,200 is the only money that will be going out, and you're going to have to wait until next year's tax returns to claim the $500. Okay, so that stuff. All right, and once again, to get this, you must have Social Security identification number, and it has been revealed that those people who are married to immigrants that do not have Social Security numbers, even if they have an immigrant identification number, an IIN, if they do not have Social Security number, then the whole family won't be getting their checks, because that person, it needs to be, either a single parent household or, single household, or if married, both have to have Social Security numbers. So that's what's going on there. Okay. Now, some good news. The huge northern ozone hole that opened up earlier this spring. So earlier this spring, there was a huge hole in the ozone layer that opened up. Remember, I talked about how the ozone is like sunscreen for the earth, and it keeps all of the harmful sun rays from getting in and hurting us, giving us, sunburns and cancer and all sorts of awful stuff, heating it up really fast. So there was a hole in our sunscreen layer that opened up earlier in the spring. It is now closed. Big win for us. We didn't do that. It was a big polar vortex, which is basically like a northern, like big wind current storm. All right. It opened up a hole in the ozone because, changing climate conditions created this polar vortex. It opens a hole in the ozone. The polar vortex is now over. The hole has closed. And they don't believe that the same conditions will be around next year, so hopefully it shouldn't open again next year. All right, but good news, no more hole in the ozone, at least, the one we had. It is healing. We are getting, like I said, for Earth Day, we're getting a lot better about not shooting chemicals into the air that hurt the ozone, that are called chlorofluorocarbons. All right, so those would hurt the ozone and create the greenhouse gas effect. So we're getting a lot better about not shooting those off. So our ozone is healing. Our sunscreen layer is getting thicker, and it should, it helps protect us. All right, so good news. There is last bit of, nope, actually I think one more, no, this is the last bit of news. All right. One thing that has been talked about lately is that a lot of Texan workers are facing a tough choice. Do I go back to work and risk coronavirus, or do I stay at home and go without unemployment benefits? Okay, so many say, and in a good note that many workers have been reporting that their unemployment benefits are actually better than their regular pay. So that does raise some concerns of, like, even if they do go back to work, they're now getting a paycheck cut basically, labor advocates have called for the Workforce Commission. The Workforce Commission are the people in charge of who gets paid unemployment benefits. They're in charge of workers in Texas, things like workers' rights and whatnot, but they are in charge of unemployment and who gets that and who qualifies for that. So labor, advocates have called for the Workforce Commission to change the unemployment rules so that workers who are at risk or who would be going to work at a place that doesn't have proper safety precautions set up for COVID-19, or who is in charge of, they have children without childcare or has to take care of family members who are at risk, who cannot go back to work. Labor advocates are asking that all of those, people be given, approval to get continued unemployment benefits instead of having their unemployment benefits cut now that places are opening back up and then being forced to either go back to work or quit and have no money at all. All right. Because the whole thing with unemployment is, in order to receive unemployment, it has to be shown that you are available to work. So if people can't go back to work because of either at risk or unsafe precaution, their work isn't taking proper precautions, or they're in charge of at risk family members, obviously that would put them out for unemployment because they're not, actively trying to work and able to work to do that. All right. So one thing to say is unemployment is also at the highest rate in almost 100 years and is steadily creeping closer and closer to the very, very high rate of unemployment we had back in the 1930s during the Great Depression. All right, so that's the news I have for today. Do not forget, guys, very important that we work on our stories. I've talked to some people who have been, reaching out and trying to get information. Make sure you are, if I ask a question in a daily video or I give you, a small little assignment, make sure you are doing that. If you are not, I will not be able to give you a grade for a week, and I would hate for there to be any incompletes. We are hoping to get all incompletes in by May 15th. If we do not receive anything to cover missing grades by May 15th, we're going to have to start, I don't know what we're going to do, but that's the date that we're looking at. So please make sure, if you are watching the videos, just shoot me, a text or a message through Dojo with the answers, or do the small little activity, do your freckle work, all of that stuff, okay? All of that counts as grades. Participate in, the daily grades, do the things in the packets. The thing in the packet for today is a small little activity that you guys can do. It is actually, since you guys are still writing your things based on, asking people questions, I would, if, those of you who are watching the video and who's waited all the way to the end, do the case of the missing pudding cup tomorrow if you want. I will allow it to be today or tomorrow's work, okay? Since I know a lot of you guys are still working on writing up your news reports about technology usage, okay? Don't forget about that. Make sure, keep me updated on how it's going. All sorts of great stuff. All right. Bye. See you guys tomorrow for Friday and the first day of May, last day of the week. I'm super excited. All right.